Hey now, it's Tuesday the 14th now. Yep, of July. Happy 14th of July, whatever that means. So did you catch me on television? It was on again this morning. I didn't realize they would rerun it in the morning. Like I said, it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal to me. It is, actually. And my sister, Stephanie, she posted on the last video. It is a big deal to us. It was a big deal. I wasn't expecting it this morning. I get up not too long ago, start making breakfast, and turned on the television. Really, the idea of checking the news, but the show was rebroadcast this morning. So I got to watch myself on national television again this morning. That's what's cool, is the idea that, any number of people across the nation may just happen to watch this and see what I'm talking about. That's what's cool. Yeah, very cool. So, folks, to piggyback on my story about my speakers yesterday, I would like to share that I'm glad I heard from you, Frank Bonarigo, that you've dealt with it. It's like, folks, are you that sheltered that you don't know that this is really how the game runs? It is all about power and sex. It is not about issues. And I want to, before I talk about some records, I want to share with you that it's another racial thing, where it wasn't just that one time about the speakers where I dealt with sex, so like what I call sexism, with my last job. I dealt with harassment from a female board director, not this one, but another one, who just assumed that because she made herself available to me, that I would take her. And she's younger than me. She's pretty, but that's not all men are the same. We are, but we're not. Some of us use our brains. Okay, I can't quite prove this in a court, but she retaliated and actually tried to use her power to have me harassed because I wouldn't comply. And she tried. This went on for a few years. Board meetings, because I ended up getting involved in my last, where I retired from. I was there for almost 30 years. I ended up getting involved on higher levels, but I refused management. I wasn't interested. Don't be fooled. People, you're fooled by suits and people's bullshit. Most of these people who claim to be upstanding citizens are filth. And the other aspect of racism I want to bring in is how a lot of people, some of you, stop and think about it. You sort of assume that black people are real, all about the sex. We all are. Black people aren't more into sex than any other race, but it's been tried to be portrayed that way by the white majority to use against us. And I've dealt with this on tour. I've toured all over the United States. I've played in over 40 of the states of America, and I played in Europe and Japan. And women would just expect that because they're making themselves available, and I'm black, that I'm going to take the sex. And I never did. Well, no. Early on, a few times, and it was the worst experiences for me sexually. But one of the last times that I want to share with you that happened to me was, so I was in New York on tour, and in a bar. We were there early, waiting to play, and I'm having a drink at the bar, which is rare for me, but I'm on tour. What else do I do? And this white woman comes up and sidles up and sits down, gets a drink, and minding her own business. She's good looking, but I'm really not paying any much attention to her. And then she just turns to me without batting an eye and just says, "Man, I can't wait to get me some good black dick tonight." just really insulted me. I don't know if she's talking about me or somebody else, but to just turn and say that to me like that, like I'll just like, oh, really insulting. Those myths. There's a lot of myths about race that are just absolute garbage. Okay, let's talk music. I've got my order in yesterday, but I also received this album in from Jason, I think you say it's Wietlispach artist. He sent me his other album, and I need to go back and listen to this one because I thought it was all right, but it didn't make a big impression on me. I got this one, but this is the new one. I believe it's called Sea of Drone. It's a limited edition. I believe there's only 100 copies, or he's making interesting editions. I think there's a couple of hundred, but this one I have number 11 of 100 of a woodcut. This is an original woodcut. That's not a cover that you can put the album in. That's actual. Well, actually, you can. I don't think I'm going to though. It feels delicate. It feels like the paint. Yes, my goodness, it'll come off real easy. So I don't intend to be interacting with the cover of this very much. Sea of Drone, Jason Wietlispach. He's on the internet. He's in the. I'll speak, Jason, if you see this. I'm gonna be honest, because Jason is a collector. He's one of those kind of people he's kind of pompous. Yeah, you are. You've admitted it. He's really wordy and tries to is always making declarations. Well, if this isn't this, or if you don't think this is this, which I just, when I do it, it's out of it. I try to watch it because that just comes off pretentious to me. Anyway, this is primarily a drone piece, best I can tell. I've listened to side 1 all the way through and part of side 2. I'm looking to see here. Okay, see, when I got this, I was very careful because I could tell that the cover is delicate. And on the inside is this is a real neat way of putting the album out. It's a work of art. There's the info on the back. So just like his other album, I need to, my first impression of this was that it's kind of academic, honestly. It's like I'm getting into the drone and it's moving along and it's just moving. It's just doing this thing. It's like, don't expect sparks, don't expect emotion, just let this thing happen. So just like his other album, I need to come back to this a few times to understand what the Sea of Drone is about. Maybe it's not about anything. Maybe it literally is just a sea of drone. Okay, Dereck, wait and do that later. Don't mess it up. Thank you, Jason, for sending it to me. But I have to absorb it more. Okay, I'm not really able to talk about it properly just yet. The lawnmower. I'm going to keep going. It's no big deal. You can hear me. So I got another order in yesterday. And I got primarily records on the Svart label out of Finland. Because there's just still a lot of old stuff I want to own that I never could before. So here's one. Uni Sono with Pekka Pajola on bass. Uni Sono came out in 1975. This is jazz rock. Pleasant. It's instrumental, but it's really melodious and has a real nice feel. The cover is very fitting, like you're in the clouds, like you're flying. Really nice. I really hope that my neighbor's lawn mowing his lawn is not a big deal. We got 2 more records. 3 more in the order. 2 more on the Smart label. One was one I had before, and this is interesting. So I got this reissue of Wigwam's Dark album. I used to have an original of this on the Love label. When I decided to sell it, I still remember this. I can remember thinking, I'm making a mistake. Why am I doing not? I didn't say that, but I just realized as I was selling it that I'm making a mistake. Because I really like this album. Wigwam is an interesting band to me. They're Finnish, but the singer, Jim Pembroke, there on the end with the glasses, is American. So they have this interesting blend of progressive with kind of country influences. The country part has always been the weakest part for me. Might have been why I sold this album, because of the way it starts. But this is actually very good. I'm glad I got the reissue, because you get a whole extra album of stuff that I never heard before and was unreleased apparently. So I got that yesterday. I got this album by Carpe Diem from France. I have their other album, Sous le jour, an original. This is a reissue. In Regardant, Passer le temps. Been wanting this for a while. This is really good. I like this better than the other one I have. French progressive. The use of a saxophone in the arrangements is nice. Not typical the way they use the saxophone voice. If you like that cover, you'll probably dig the record. I like this. Interesting about the Campo di Marte. I played it some more. I see what everyone's saying, but I really like it. Yeah, I do. I really like it. And then the last thing I got in my order is an album I've been wanting for the longest and could never afford it when I could find a copy. And I missed out on recent reissues, and they just thankfully reissued it again. Smart. It's Wigwam's album Fairyport. This has been one I've been wanting for ages. The cover art is part of it. The music is definitely a big part of it, because I really like this album. And I've had the music for a long time on CD and also on a Wigwam comp. Part of this is on there. So I knew what it was I wanted. But it has an interesting fold out. This is a book, several page book with the story and illustrations. It folds out again. It's a 3-way fold. And musically, this is tight. When I ordered this, I just ordered it. Didn't know that I was getting this color vinyl. I was just happy to just get the record, but isn't that a beautiful violet? The album, what's interesting about this band is that there's a big Stevie Wonder influence on these white folks, but where they take it is like not where Stevie or me would have taken it, which I find very interesting. They do some things harmonically and melodically where it's almost like they've run into a corner, and it's like, where do we go now? How do we get out of this? It literally sounds like that to me, which I find fascinating. And they always find a way to resolve or to move on to the next thing. Very interestingly. So, Fairyport, finally. I played this, more useless information for you. This tickled me so much to finally have this. I took this out and played this on the good stereo out in the living room, because my other stereo is good too. Do I notice the difference between turntables? Do I notice? Boy, do I. Yeah, I do notice the difference in quality of equipment. But this one is convenient, so this is where I listen to music. It sounds fine to me. This stereo in here really kicks butt. But I hear the fineness of the cartridge and the needle out there through the system, the Akio out there. I got a good system out there too. Really sounds good on movies and DVDs. But yeah, I really noticed the fidelity difference. Something else I played last night, just I hadn't played and it was very pleasant. Akio Sasajima, Japanese guitarist with Joe Henderson. White label promo on Muse. Kind of on the light side, but real pleasant. Really beautiful. Joe Henderson has a lot to do with it. Sasajima's guitar playing is nice, but kind of forgettable. But the overall arrangements, good cover for this. It fits it well. A band that gets talked about a lot in the prog groups, where I never thought of them as prog, I still don't, is Passport from Germany, Klaus Doldinger. My Uncle Johnny Griffin played with him. Wish I had known that when I was a kid, when I first found out about Passport. Would have freaked my ass out. My Uncle Johnny's from Passport. The French Air Force brat kids turned me on to Passport. They loved Passport. And so I got into them. So this is their first album, German issue of it. And it'd been a long time since I'd played this. I really liked this album. Really liked the sound. Something else I forgot to mention the other day is people are passing all the time, but Judy Dibble, or Dibble, however you say her name, she was in Trader Horne, Fairyport Convention, and originally with King Crimson, Giles, and Fripp. She passed away recently. Lovely voice. I love this album, Trader Horne. Love her voice on here. Something delicate about it. And these songs. Great album. It's very collectible. I saw online where some folks have actual copies. This is a Korean reissue. Yeah, that shit makes me jealous a little bit. It's like, those records are rare. But speaking of, it just happens to be. Music will pop in my head. Someone asked me, how do you just keep going from music to music and not getting stuck on anything? I do get stuck on things. I just don't necessarily talk about it. Magma has been a big one this year. But music will pop into my head and they'll just say, well, I want to hear this. And so yesterday it was Dorothy Ashby. And so I popped this on, the fantastic jazz harp of Dorothy Ashby. Now this is on the lighter commercial side of her records. I've got the heavier ones that people are always talking about, hip harp and some others. But I love the arrangements on this. And this was really nice yesterday. Just music to make the house feel good. And this is an original mono. I looked it up. And this goes for as much as $500. It's kind of cool to know. Okay. So to kind of wrap up this one, because man, the time goes quick. I am concerned about this country. The numbers are just not going down, and it's like we just have seems we have large numbers of people who just don't seem to understand this is serious. The COVID thing. My heart goes out to parents. If by now you don't see what sort of heartless monsters we have in office, where they're willing to sacrifice your children for their monetary gain, that I'm going to say it, that bitch Betsy DeVos, do you believe the shit she's saying about, oh, only a certain amount of kids are going to die? Like any kids dying is okay. We got to have them open, got to have them open. It's about the greenbacks. These people are monsters. How can anyone with any sort of soul or actual heart continue to support these motherfuckers? How can you? How can you? What is wrong with your soul? Last thing I'll say is I wrote it on my page yesterday. Left equals fail. Right equals fail. Why don't we refocus on human needs? This is insane. As soon as you put up a division, or as soon as you take up sides, this is this side and that side, we lose. We all lose. People who say that somehow that one side is going to prevail over the other, they're lying. And they're not very smart. It's real obvious. We all lose. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't think it's going to be anything. I think we're just going to keep sliding down and falling apart. So I'm going to play records.